Welcome to Coast Vue and Happy New Year. Welcome to this wonderful place in coastal Mississippi. I hope you're having a great day. This is the place every single day where we celebrate the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a great place to live, work, and play. Had my friend Steve Azar yesterday, and we reflected on the holidays and so much to be thankful for in this great state. And today, it would only be fitting that given the conversations that my friend Robby D'Angelo and I have had over the past 3 years about how to get your mind and your body in shape so you can enjoy life and live in the moment and have as little worries in the world as you can possibly manage, it would seem proper to have Robby today to wish you a happy new year and to sort of start taking the steps to have a healthy, not just January, but a healthy 2023. Without any further ado, let me bring my friend Robby D'Angelo into the conversation. How you doing, Robby?
Ricky, I am doing fantastic, and happy New Year's to everyone. I hope you had a great holidays and ready for a fantastic year.
Well, listen, Robby, you and I, we chat a lot. I pay a lot close attention to you on your social media. And but for people who have not heard us before we get into a conversation about how we kind of tend to loosen up during the holidays as it relates to sort of our weight and how we feel about things, it's no matter where you are, it's not too late. Today's a great time to get started, and we're going to come back to that in just a second and say, we'll start the journey with you starting today. Why don't you remind people what it is you do?
So my title is a mental optimization expert. I do a lot of coaching and speaking around that space. I also work in companies on human capital, which is a lot of leadership and culture and communication. But my true passion is just getting people to their potential. How do we remove the limiting beliefs and the things that are holding you back to get you to be the best version of yourself?
It's really interesting because if you go back and look at your story, an over 300-pound lineman at Southern Miss with a very successful career, and then you came out of school and you looked at yourself and you said, this is not a good place to be. You went on a mission. You got yourself in shape. You got your mind straight. You end up becoming sort of I would say maybe a trainer at one point, like in the early days, and then you evolved to human optimization coach, realizing that you got to have your mind right before you can have your sort of physical self right. And then that's evolved. I love the way you moved from coastal Mississippi to Florida to change your surroundings. Not that you're not coming back on a regular basis, and not that you don't still have clients and others you care about here in coastal Mississippi, but you change your surroundings. You raised your bar even higher. You have really gotten into corporate talking and the larger groups in a corporate setting. You've learned a lot about what it takes to succeed, haven't you?
It's been a complete trial by fire, if I'm honest with you, because I didn't come from an entrepreneurial background. Both my parents love them to death. They're teachers and coaches. So a lot of what I'm having to do now was trial by fire. It was finding really great mentors and coaches in my own life. A lot of self-study, self-learning. I tell people all the time, YouTube is the best ROI of my life. I pay for premium, and that's been the biggest payback I've ever experienced in my life. So yeah, it's been a self-growth, self-development journey. But the thing I'm so thankful for is the wisdom I've been able to collect along the way, and all the wisdom that I'm looking forward to collecting in my future. Because I know that as far as I've come, I still have a long way I want to go.
Yeah. Well, you and I have discussed this, but it's worthy of being sort of repeated, that the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know, that life is a journey. It's a learning. It's a journey of self-discovery. It's a journey of learning. And the more you learn, the more humble you better get. And that keeps you thirsty to want to learn more. Certainly as a publisher, I felt that way, throughout my life. But, I go back early in my life, Robby, and I think about when my father died. I was only 21 years old, and I had visions of one day maybe taking over his business. I had been in pre-med, and I decided to go back to school. And as you and I discussed before, kind of rebuilt my educational foundation. Got a full scholarship to Southern, and was very focused on my academics. I did an internship at the Sun Herald, and the rest is history. But I went on to get an MBA. But if I think back at the things that made the biggest difference for me, it was reading just about every book that Zig Ziglar wrote, learning how to set goals, learning how to overcome the odds. Anthony Robbins, I mean, his book, his first book, he's written several since, but about how to really set goals and how to be determined and how to be a monomaniac on a mission. Things like Norman Vincent Peale and others that teach you how to communicate and how to strive for excellence. I spent a lot of my time in my early life really sort of understanding what it really means to work hard, burn the midnight oil, and set goals. And, building a sort of a framework for a process to be successful, whether it's going to school or whether it's in your career, or whether it's working out and trying to be healthy, or whether it's your mindset. Training yourself to do that, it's a really good foundation, isn't it?
It really is, and what it does, it expands your perspective, and it gives you new insight. My goal is always book a week, and here, kind of getting through the holidays, I had a little more free time, so I was a little bit ahead of that. But just consuming knowledge, whether it's be podcasts, shows like this. Or just books, and so many ways out there consuming information. What you're trying to do is you're trying to gain new perspectives, you're trying to gain new skills, and you're really trying to, just be a better person, right? And so many of us, I'm not even going to get into the stats of the amount of books people read past school. It's something like 20% of people read a book past the time they graduate college. And it's such a sad stat to me because there's so many brilliant people out there we can learn from. And, why repeat the same mistakes other people have made, right? If I can read a book and not make that same mistake, my life is going to be better off for it. And I think that's something we really miss if we're not in that constant pursuit of knowledge.
And, as you pointed out, technology really enables learning today. I mean, you get into the right feeds on YouTube or even in social media, and man, there is so much to learn. There's so many inspiring people that are literally dedicating their life. They've had tremendous success in their life. They continue to learn, like you, for example. This iteration that you're going through, who knows where you'll be 5 years from now? I mean, really, honestly, who knows? Because what I love about where you are is that you are in a mode of I will never arrive. That I'm on this journey to maximize my potential. And as you learn more and gain more capabilities, your potential broadens and the scope of your impact broadens. And who knows where that's going to take you? And that's true with anyone who is dedicated to constant learning. But technology, man, I have on Instagram, I have almost an entire feed now that's focused on just people who have inspirational thoughts. And someone said the other day, talking about writing a journal. I don't literally write a journal, but the opportunity to do this show in a way sort of creates for me a journal every morning, because I'm capturing positive quotes, and I'm preparing for conversations with people like you, and I'm writing lots of notes around that. And in a way, I'm capturing what's in my mind at this moment. And I can go back over the last 3 years. I've been 5 days a week for 3 years. I've been writing all this down. And there's the fodder for an amazing book about leadership in coastal Mississippi. I'll never write it, but the point is, I'm still sharing these stories, and I'm getting as much from it as I'm giving. It's like I'm living in this. You feel that same way, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of I think the greatest gifts as to what I do for a living is, as much as I'm helping my clients, they're helping me too. One of my favorite things in my practice is when a client presents me a new problem, a problem that I've never solved before, because it gets me excited. Like, oh, hold on, I need to go learn a new skill. I need to get better at something. And that's, the whole reason, even over the last year, I started doing more relationship coaching and more communication coaching. I never thought I'd be in that field, but I saw the clients struggling with that. So I'm like, okay, in order to help them, I need to go get better at this. So it's such a reciprocal relationship. And that's the biggest thing that I tell people is your relationships are always the biggest teacher in your life.
It's so interesting because it's like every step of your sort of maturation as in your field has been adding more dimensions. You know, what are the dimensions that will get added in the future? You know, it's going to be interesting to see. What I love about what you've done is the way you add those dimensions is not just educating yourself, but it's surrounding yourself with people who have a positive influence on you, whether it be the coaches that you have. I mean, you've got your own coaches. I can only imagine, let's say, for example, a CEO that you might do some work for who needs your help personally and maybe inside their company, that think of what you can offer to them to help with their relationships and their goal setting, and think of what they can provide to you about entrepreneurship and running a business and all the opportunities that you have. In fact, when we come back on the other side, I want you to talk a little bit about what you're getting from these relationships, because there's a lot to learn there about surrounding yourself with people who can have a positive influence on your life. When we get back, we'll continue our conversation with Robby D'Angelo. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue, and listen, Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a wonderful holiday and ready to hit the ground running with the new year, which is one of the reasons I invited Robby D'Angelo to join me today. He's an inspiring guy who has a great story to tell, and he has wonderful feedback and guidance to give about how to tackle this new year, which we'll get to in just a second. But when we went to the break, we were kind of focusing a bit on why it's important to surround yourself with people who can positively influence you, because we've had these conversations before that too many people are focused around, are surrounded by people who are negative, who can't really do anything but tear you down or keep you in sort of a negative aura. And Robby's always coached us to we have to be smart about who should be in our life and who should not be in our life. The point that I was making is some of his clients he's working with almost probably have as much to give as to Robby as Robby has to give to them. And I was curious about what a relationship like that might look like, and what do you get from it, Robby?
You know, a lot of my practice isn't necessarily giving advice more than it is asking powerful questions. That's one of the greatest skill sets a coach can have, is asking powerful questions. So by going deep and asking those questions, you get to see truly what motivates someone, and the reasons why they do the things they do. And a lot of times it challenges your own perspective. When you're asking powerful questions and learning from other people, it challenges you, like, oh, am I thinking big enough? Or, oh man, like, they're looking at it from this perspective. Maybe if I looked at it from a different perspective too, I could see it, in a real motivating way for me. One of my clients last week, he was going into his end of the year meeting with his entire company, and he was having trouble setting goals because he just, he's got a really good company and he just wasn't really fired up. But what I made him realize through asking the right questions was it wasn't the numbers that fired him up. It was the people that fired him up. It was creating success for people inside of his company that really motivated him. And it reminded me about something of a goal that I have of building a successful coaching company with other coaches inside of it. And it's always getting that feedback and that challenging viewpoints of, you're really meant for more. A lot of times we're just stuck in our own, self-doubt, self-pity, whatever it may be. And we're not seeing the potential of what could be. And that's the real benefit of surrounding yourself with people that are living life to their capacity, is that they challenge you to stop living small and to really make an impact in the world.
That's pretty amazing. Has your company grown to the extent that you're contracting with other coaches to join you in efforts inside corporations?
I do. When I take on a company, I do have a couple coaches that I have to bring on board to help me with those. So my one-on-one coaching is still my one-on-one coaching, but when I work with a company, a lot of times I have a kind of a roster of different people that I can pull in to help me.
That's pretty cool in and of itself. Hey, listen,
it is.
The holidays, I mentioned to you at one point that during the holidays, I got on a scale and had gained a couple of pounds. I'm very aware of exactly where I am in any given moment, because I've really taken a sort of a lifelong commitment to trying to keep my mind straight and trying to keep my physical self straight, because I've got some bad genes in my family, and I've done a good job so far fighting those genes, but it takes living a healthy lifestyle, eating properly and exercising like a wild man, which I've done for over 40 years. But what happens during the holidays is that people tend to drop their guards, and it starts actually. It may start even a little bit before Thanksgiving, and then it starts to. Thanksgiving comes, and it's almost like Thanksgiving is opening the door to freedom. We're not gonna pay attention to these things that at times can be agonizing, which is I can't eat that right now because it'll take me over my calorie load for the day, or maybe I got to go work out and I'm not feeling today, but I'm still going to go. People sort of put some of those conversations to the back seat for a period of time, and before they know it, it's today, January the 3rd. What causes that? Talk us through the process of people sort of falling off the bandwagon.
It's definitely multifaceted. On one side of it, it's seasonal depression that people are eating their feelings away. On the other side of it is, if we're honest, especially in the South, we associate food with happiness. Food, gatherings, people, parties, like that for us is some of the best times of our life. And the thing about the holiday stretch from Thanksgiving, really in the South, it's from Thanksgiving to Mardi Gras. But what happens is normally we have like maybe one of those a month, right? Now we're having one of those a week, if not a couple times a week. We're gathering in families, and we'll have like a 2 or 3 day period where we're eating like that and just surrounded by food and drink. And it happens a lot more. And we're so caught up in just enjoying the moment and having fun that we forget about our goals. And then we wake up 30 days later and we're like, oh, what did I just do?
Well, Robby, why is it so? I mean, I felt this way myself before, but I've heard many people say it. It's so hard to lose it, but it is so easy to get it back. I mean, it may take you 6 months to lose it, and in 30 days, you blew it. Why is that?
A lot of what that is, when we put on the weight, we're consuming so many excess calories, right? Instead of on a 2,000 calorie a day diet, we might go up to like 4,000 or 5,000 calories. And we might do that consecutively, where if you think about dieting, if you're supposed to be eating 2,000 calories, but to lose weight, you got to eat, 1,800, 1,600, that's only a 200 to 400 calorie deficit. But when you're gaining, you're actually eating 2,000 to 3,000 calories more than you're supposed to. So it's really just a calories in, calories out equation. But, when we're in that excess period, we're eating so many more. We're not just eating an extra 200 calories. We're not just eating an extra 400 calories. A lot of times it's 1,000, 2,000 extra calories. And that's why it happens so fast.
Yeah, it is amazing. Actually, I was thinking the other day, there was a piece of cake that had I'm trying to remember. I think it had cream cheese in it, and then it had icing on top of it. And I started to think about what would a 4 or 6 ounce slice of that be in terms of calories. And I started to do some research on that. And man, I found anything from 600 calories to 1,200 calories, some even more than that, for one slice, Robby. One slice. Some people have 2 slices, and they might put a little ice cream on top of it.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example of that. I know on the coast, crumble cookies have gotten really popular, right? Everybody loves going to get the cookie, and they look at the nutrition label on the board. Oh, it's only 230 calories, but there's an asterisk behind that 230. And if you go on their website and look, that 230 calories in that cookie is for a fourth of the cookie. So you're eating almost 1,000 calories in one cookie, but we don't think about a time. We just think about how good the cookie is and how much we enjoy it.
Just imagine. And then, of course, when the family gets together, there's these appetizers that are part of the tradition of the family, and then the meal happens, and it's multifaceted meal, and then you're already in a coma, and then here come the desserts and the candies and the mint cookies and oh my gosh, and then so you think, okay, I lived through that, that's fine. But then the next day you're eating leftovers. In fact, the leftovers actually last you for 3 or 4 days afterwards. And then you come to, and then something happens and you think, well, I got to get back on it today. Oh my gosh, we got an opportunity to go to dinner tonight. Well, tomorrow I'll get started tomorrow. And it's like that for the rest of the holidays, isn't it?
That's the spiral. That is absolutely a spiral. And what you're talking about with these family meals is, let's be honest, most of these family meals that we're having, look, I'm Italian. There's no such thing as nutrient dense Italian food. It's all very calorie dense.
Yeah.
And most of these casseroles and cookies and all this are very calorie dense. So like we talked about earlier, that typical meal, you could be eating, 3,000 to 5,000 calories in one sitting. And then we wonder why, dieting and being in a 200 calorie deficit, why it takes so long to get that weight off. Well, it's because you ate 5,000 calories in one meal, and then you did it for 3 or 4 days in a row. And it makes it hard. But there's actually the problem is your brain loves those foods. And it creates an addiction cycle in your brain where your brain just starts craving it. When you eat one of those meals, your brain's like, okay, give me some more. And it's just a real hard mental battle at that point.
And then you add, okay, forget about the role that alcohol plays and maybe even increasing the amount of intake. You forget about maybe some family friction that creates some depression or some emotional issues. I'm saying in a normal situation, all the relationships are healthy. There's not over intake of alcohol that's influencing the eating behavior. Just normal. The reality is that people enjoy being with one another. Okay, so you got people that are coming together that don't get to see each other on a daily basis. And then in my family, for example, you've got this combination on Anne's side of the family, a combination of French and Yugoslavian food that sort of came together and create this smorgasbord of wonderful desserts and foods that are to absolute die for. And you add it all up, and it's just such a great feeling with coming together. And people are having, under those circumstances, they're overindulging. But man, you start adding bad relationships and alcohol to the mix, and man, it can roll in the wrong direction quickly. When we come back with Robby, we'll talk about that part of it, and then we'll kind of move on from there. We've pretty much let you know how you got where you are here on January the 3rd. Then we're going to talk about some things you can do to make a difference. What can your new lease on 2023 really be? We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast Vue. Robby and I chuckled a little bit during the break to say, wow, I think we've done a pretty good job of describing how we all, us included, have these challenges during the holidays. But before we move to solutions, let's talk about the role that alcohol plays in this moment that we described a few minutes ago when we got all this food and family and all this, and how some tension in relationships could contribute to the situation. Talk about that.
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely not opposed to alcohol, but in drinking that, we do have to understand what it does to our body. Not only does alcohol increase appetite, because it lowers your inhibition, right? It lowers the judgment part of your brain that most of the time will tell you to stop. Alcohol just kind of lets you go. But on the other side of that, alcohol actually, once you introduce alcohol into your bloodstream, it stops fat metabolism. So your body's ability to burn body fat actually gets shut off when you start drinking alcohol. So that's kind of the negative sides of that during the holiday season, even though we all do it. And then on what Rick was bringing up also about family stress and seasonal depression, what that does is it increases a hormone in your body called cortisol. And that's your fight or flight hormone that was in the old days reserved for when you're getting attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. No, now it's, by family, your job, whatever it is. But cortisol, high levels of cortisol during the holidays actually causes your body to store more body fat because it's preparing, it needs that energy for a fight. So guys, I just want to warn you about that. Do the best you can to manage your stress, because that'll lower your alcohol consumption, but it'll also lower your ability to store body fat.
So this is how we get here on January the 3rd. And some do better than others during that period. The majority of people, I think, probably look back on the holidays usually with a little bit of regret. I wish I'd have paid a little bit more attention. I'm amazed how fast time flies. It's amazing how fast time flies. I saw a quote. Let me see if I can find it real quick, but it's a quote from Carl Sagan. And Carl Sagan, the famous astronomer, I remember watching all those videos of philosophy about him and, contemplating the universe. But here's the quote. He said, "We are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever." time does fly. It really does fly. And we don't appreciate how quickly time will catch up on us. And so here we are. It's January 3rd. So, Robby, what is your advice to people as they enter the new year?
The biggest thing, I'll tell you, the first thing you need to do is just kind of own where you're at. Take some accountability. Stop blaming it on the holiday. Stop. Just say, hey, look, I made these decisions. Because what that does is it gives you your power back. Because if you made those decisions, now you have the power to make different decisions and understand that there is hope in change. The second thing is just get really clear on your 2023 goals. And what I want to talk about there is something that I've seen in my own practice and my own self, to be honest with you. The sad stat about New Year's resolutions and any goals really is only 8% of goals get accomplished. And I hate seeing that number. It's really low. And what I want to challenge you to do in 2023 is, yes, dream big, but I want you to set really small goals. It might be a daily goal. It might be like, hey, look, I'm going to make it to Friday. Like, this is what I'm going to do this week. Have your big dreams, but set really small goals, because I find that's what keeps a lot of people from accomplishing their goals. They're too big and scary. Right. But if we can just really, really boil them down to the micro and say, you know what, like when I was bodybuilding, my goal was, hey, just win today until you go to sleep tonight. Just make it until bedtime. And if you do that enough days in a row, you're going to win.
So that is so important. One of the things that we talked about this the last show, but I started plotting food intake, and they've got great apps out there. People should look into it. I use the Fitbit app. It's good because I have a Fitbit watch. It ties it all together, measures the calorie burn that I do each day, and measures my steps. It really tracks a lot of stuff. It measures your sleep. It will, if you want to measure your water intake, you can plot that as well. But food intake, and it's got a database. It makes it easy to understand the calories. I've learned a lot over the last many months. Learned a lot about where calorie count is in food and how much portion size and stuff like that. But the one thing I've learned, and you and I've talked about this before, Robby, but I think it's really important, and that is that you can't lose weight in a short period of time if you're really serious about it. You have to maybe 1, maybe 2 pounds a week, maybe at best. But just if you just, as you pointed out, if you have to understand what your burn is and what your daily calorie intake is, and then you have to decide you're going to do a 10 or 20% deficit to that, and then slowly but surely over a long period of time. If you approach it that way, it's a lot more manageable, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about the stats of the people who do crash diet, fad diet, that the vast majority of them just end up putting the weight back on, and actually more. So that's, there's so many stats out there about why crash dieting, fad dieting is bad for you. But I'll give you a perfect example, Ricky, was when I lost my initial weight. I lost over 100 pounds in a year, and people were blown away by that. How did you do that? And I was like, it's simple. I lost 2 pounds a week. I just focused on that small goal. Say, hey, this week I'm going to lose 2 pounds. There's 52 weeks in a year. That's 104 pounds. But all I didn't focus on the 100 pounds. I focused on the 2 pounds. And I just tried to win this week. Like, hey, look, let's just make it to this week. Let's win this week, and let's lose these 2 pounds. And by doing that, I developed a healthy lifestyle. I was in it for the long run, and I was doing things that were making me healthier, not making me skinnier, because there's a big difference between those two things.
There is a big difference. And it's important, but you'll get one with the other if you're smart about it. If you're really smart about it, if you really, really, truly focused on being healthy, and then to correspond with that, talk about sort of the exercise regimen that should go with that.
Okay, here's my thing with exercise, and I'll tell anybody this: find something you enjoy doing. I tell this to all my clients in the past. It's like, hey, look, I don't care what you do. Find something you enjoy doing. One of my clients right now, she hated the gym. She didn't like, anything that made her like jump up and down. Like, she just adverse to anything exercise, but she fell in love with dancing. She would go dance. She would go 2 or 3 nights a week and dance for like 4 or 5 hours, and like dance classes and salsa classes. And she was burning a ton of calories. I'm like, that's what it is. It's finding ways to move your body that you actually enjoy. I mean, just think about this. If you're a sedentary individual that doesn't exercise, how much of a difference would it make walking your dog for 20 minutes a day? Right? It can be so simple as that, but it's something you enjoy doing. Find that thing you enjoy doing and be consistent. Consistency is the number one attribute to weight loss.
Listen, Robby, I think I mentioned this to you before, but when I became publisher of the Sun Herald, one of the very first things I said is, I'm never going to mow my yard again. Finally, I'm going to get me a yard guy. And I did for a lot of years. But one of the things I ultimately realized was, and this is being creative, because if I cut my yard, it takes several miles to cut my yard. Because not that my yard is necessarily that large, it's just that it's, when you do all those laps back and forth, you got a big backyard. Next door, there's a big hill. Have to go up and down the hill. I came to the realization that I just need to get me a push mower. And I'll get my, it's a self-propelled mower. But what I have done now is I track how my heart's responding to that, going up and down the hills and pushing, even though it's self-propelled, you still have to maneuver it, et cetera. And, man, I mean, it's incredible. During the summertime months, a couple of times a week, I'm out there cutting the yard, and I can get, 14, 15,000 steps in just cutting the yard. But I realized that, man, that's people say, why are you doing that? You're going to hurt yourself. Hurt myself. I'm actually getting some of the best exercise of my life doing that on a couple of days a week. But that's just an example of how you can be creative.
What you did, Ricky, that's so powerful is you did a reframe. So your old frame was, I hate cutting grass. Your new frame was, oh, this is exercise. And I enjoy it because it's making me stronger. I'm burning calories. I was the same way. When I owned my house, I have allergies. So I hate cutting grass because all the after effects of cutting grass. But then it was an opportunity for me to go get some vitamin D and get some exercise. So I actually started enjoying cutting my grass for the same reason you did, because, oh, I'm burning calories right now. I'm getting skinnier by cutting my grass. So let's go cut the grass. And that's a lot of what it is. Going to the grocery store, everybody's searching for that close parking spot. Park out near the road and think about it. I'm getting my steps in. No, I'm getting some exercise, right? It's these small little reframes that you're looking at something negative. You can actually turn it into something positive because it's helping you. And once again, it's the mindset piece.
It is the mindset, man. It's all about the mindset. And, I think for people who have not heard us talk before, let's remind people. I'll tell you what, we're coming to the end of the segment. Is that right, Kyle? Okay, why don't we do this? On the other side, I want to remind people the importance of sleep. And why that's important. The importance of just walking. The importance of hydration. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, and I'll say, it'd be like the afternoon. My friends will say, I'm just not feeling great. I said, let me ask you a question. How many glasses of water have you drank today? Well, not any. Okay, well, let's start with that, and we'll have a conversation. But we'll talk about the importance of hydration. We're visiting with my friend Robby D'Angelo. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Coast Vue, and again, Happy New Year to you here on this January the 3rd. It's amazing that 2022 is already behind us. And I'm visiting with my friend Robby D'Angelo. And I do say my friend, it's interesting, Robby, I'm going to have to go back and count, but we sort of knew each other. I knew your family. I knew your little brother really well because he was at St. Patrick's about the same time my kids were there. But again, I knew of you. I really enjoyed watching you play football at Southern Miss. Those were some fun days. But I didn't know you that well. And so we've slowly but surely over this last 3 years gotten to know each other really well. We've had these deep conversations, and just like we were saying in the first segment, and then into the second segment, my association with you has been good for me. It's been good for me to be reminded of these things. But it's important to understand, even for someone like myself who's been involved in physical fitness for over 40 years, the importance of sleep, I can't overestimate or overstate how important that is. And I track my sleep every single night. I know exactly how much REM sleep I get, how much shallow sleep I get, how much I'm awake, because everybody's awake during the night. And I know how I compare. The good thing about Fitbit is it compares you with people your age and tells you sort of where you are on that. On heart health, it does the same thing. I know exactly where I am compared to other people my age, and it's just a really good tool. But the bottom line is that eating healthy, getting sleep, and hydration, drinking plenty of water, is one of them, and then walking, some of the most important tools you can use. Why don't you reemphasize for people who are just getting started how important those elements are to get sort of setting the stage?
Yeah, everybody's always looking for the magic pill, the quick fix, the fad diet, what's hot this year. And it really is as simple as what you just said. Something as little as getting the right amount of REM sleep increases your metabolism. It increases your insulin sensitivity. So something as little as sleep actually helps you lose weight. I read one study where if people would get an hour extra sleep, it's actually the equivalent to going on a 20, 30-minute walk for your metabolism. So sleep is just crucial for your brain function, for your body to repair itself, for every function in your body. And then the next pillar would be water. It's crazy. Like I hear some people, I've got a headache this afternoon, or I think I'm just tired, or they just complain about these little micro, things. And I'm like, well, how much water have you had? And they're like, I had some coffee. I had a Red Bull. I'm like, no, that's not hydration. How much actually are you hydrating your body? And it's crazy. Like we know the importance of it, yet we don't do it. And I can't stand when people say, I don't like drinking water. Put lemon in it, put something in it, like flavor it somehow, but get your hydration in. And then yes, when it comes to like all these fad diets and all these things, like guys, just eat healthy. Eat as close farm to table as you can, cut out sugar and processed foods, and don't overcomplicate it, right? Always, Occam's razor, the simple solution is more than likely the right solution. And then just move. Just get off your butt and move. Go for the walk. I don't care. Just walk in circles around your house if you're on a phone call. Just move. Stop being so sedentary, because people do overcomplicate. They're trying to play, chess when it's really just a game of checkers. Just take the next right move. You don't have to think 10 steps ahead. Just take the next right move, and all that will have a compounding effect on your health.
I had someone who was important to me had surgery recently, and we waited in the ICU waiting room. And when I got up there before some other folks got up there, and I looked at my watch, and I had not really gotten many steps in because I'd gotten up early and gotten in the car and made a long drive. And so I said, well, here we go. I made a couple of quick phone calls, got in the corner of the ICU, and I just started doing laps. I'm sure people thought I was crazy. But by the time others got there, I had already walked 1.5 miles, just in that little space that I had, figured out. But that's what you do. Hey, while you were talking, I was looking at this cup that I'm here. It's a little Yeti cup. It's 14 ounces. Okay. So my morning, this is every single morning without fail. Well, first thing I do, I unload the dishwasher and prepare, the coffee for my wife and, do all that. Okay. Then I pour this up full, 14 ounces, and I drink it. And then I do it again, 14 ounces. That's 28 ounces that I'm taking before I have even taken many steps, right out the bat. And it just supercharges my system. And then I'll have a cup of coffee after that. But I won't go in to a cup of coffee with an empty stomach. But it makes a difference when you start your day with a lot of water, doesn't it?
Well, it activates every cell in your body. It activates your metabolism. Like, hey, you want a fat loss pill? Go drink some water, and drink a ton of it. Just that your body processing that water, and having the energy in your cells. And look, you drink a lot of water, you got to get up and walk to the bathroom a lot. So there's so many little benefits to drinking water. And I was talking to a group of athletes last week. Every percentage point you go down in dehydration, how much it affects your mental capacity. Just get your water, drink 20 ounces when you first get up, and then just through the day, just keep hammering it, and set a timer on your phone, buy one of those jugs that has a countdown on it. Just do what you need to do to get your water in.
Well, Robby, that's good. That's great advice for people who are really looking forward to sort of setting the course to having a great 2023. And we'll have you back in a few weeks, and we'll check in and see how people are doing. And Happy New Year to you, my friends, again, and continued success.
Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate you so much. Everyone have a blessed 2023. I wish you the best. And if you ever need me, please reach out to me on social media.